Hello, all you paranormal pondering people. There's been a lot of talk about pendulums, and some people are very curious on how to use them in a safe way. So this is going to be my pendulum video. Pendulums, I've written a few notes down because I want to try and go through this in one go. A lot of people think that pendulums are safer than using a Ouija boards or doing seances or that sort of a thing. Just so that you know, you will be opening portals. They also need to be closed. You need to protect yourself, and I talk about drawing down the light all the time. I've had a few people complain that I share that video too often, but it is the single most important thing that you can learn when you are doing anything paranormal. How do you protect yourself? So you cannot use pendulums or anything without protecting yourself first. Well, that's a lie. Of course, you can use them. You can also get attachments. They can last for years and years if you don't know how to get rid of them. A lot of people that I knew back in the 70s claimed that they knew how to protect me. We were doing seances, Ouija boards, tarot cards. Like, we were doing a lot of stuff back when there was no one teaching this stuff. I trusted some friends that said they knew how to do this. Things went wrong using the Ouija board, like they do in every movie ever made about an Ouija board. And they did not know how to clear or protect anyone. So that is why I always say you need to know how to draw down the light. Saging, using crystals, gritting with salt, they're all wonderful tools when you know how to use them. But just burning sage and doing a few crystals around will not protect you if you are not using it properly. So I'm going to give you the order on how to do things. I'm going to try and make it quick. Then I'll just do like a quick little video afterwards to show you. So I'll do it in two parts. So the first thing you need to do when you want to use your pendulum. Now, using pendulums is also called dowsing. And I have brought some stuff to show you. I'll do that in a minute. So the very first thing, you need to do an invitation. Hopefully you can see that. So you must physically ask your angels, guides, friends, and elementals for their help. You need to ask for help, guidance, protection during this session. If you do not help, just like in Star Trek, they can't interfere or help you. You need to physically, out loud, ask for their help, their guidance, and their protection. Those three things. That is before you start, before you draw down your light, before you do anything, you call in your team to help you. Making sacred space, making a safe place. It's called drawing down the light. You will be creating portals and doorways that are directly linked to yourself when you're trying to communicate with the paranormal. You do not want attachments. An attachment is an energy being that will be joined to you, and that usually happens because you are the one that opened up, that they saw, they realized, oh, this person I can try and communicate with. Or it could be something not so nice, and it figures it can use you for specific things. So you don't want that to happen. So you need to bring down the light. The light is basically the original light of creation, God's light. It is the highest universal energy that exists. It works every single time, not just sometimes. It works every time. It works better than smudging, better than crystal gritting, better than anything, and I will explain that later. But you do need to know how to draw down the light. I cannot say this enough. I will repeat myself a million times. If only the one person that really needs it gets the message, then I'm happy. But everyone needs to know how to do this. That's step 2. You call in your team. You make sacred space. 3, choose a pendulum. You know, so you can, someone has said that they have the wedding ring of their mom. A personal item is good. There are lots of crystal point pendulums and of all various shapes and sizes that you can just go to any store and buy. You do need to clear them. And things like bracelets, like you don't need a chain or anything special. You could just be a piece of string. I will show you some examples of that in a minute. So you get whatever your dowsing item is going to be. You need to program and clear your pendulum. You draw down the light, which we will talk about. You charge the pendulum either in your hands or on the table in front of you. The words that you say are, I clear you with the highest light of the one, to be used for dowsing purposes. You could say, if you're using that pendulum for healing or clearing chakras or something else, then you would, instead of saying to be used for dowsing purposes, you would say used for healing purposes or whatever that is. So that line can change. You must always have a qualifier in that. You don't need to understand what that means, but the qualifier line is harming none. That is very important, and it cannot be left out. If it is the will of the one being the highest power that there is, God, Creator, I don't care what name you use, that's the line. So mote it be, and then you will say either blessed be, amen, make it so, whatever ending feels right for you. So the words that you use are, I clear you with the highest light of the one, to be used for dowsing purposes, harming none. If it is the will of the one, so mote it be. And you'll be holding it like this as you're doing that, or you'll be doing that. There we go. I know. Old lady, she wrote everything down so she wouldn't forget the order. Using pendulums is really cool. You choose, when you're programming it, and we'll talk about it in a minute, you will either choose to have the pendulum go back and forth for yes, or in a circle for yes. Mine goes in a circle for yes and back and forth for no. So which is cool, you can ask it questions and you can get yes or no answers. But if you want more accurate or extended answers, you will need a letterboard for easier communication, which we will talk about in a minute. Pen and paper for notes. Everyone thinks that they're going to remember what happened while they're doing it, and your mind goes all wonky. If you're spelling out words, you really need a pen and a paper to remember, to write it down, to be accurate. There's a lot going on. Just to note that homemade boards are more attuned to your personal energy. They're not necessary. You don't have to have a board, but it makes it easier. And yes, pendulums and Ouija boards are the exact same thing. A little different, but you're opening up portals and you're using the same energy. So like we will discuss that in a minute, which I mentioned earlier. Okay, so when you make your own board, you can cut out individual letters of the alphabet, like, just A, B, C, D. You can actually make it on a piece of Bristol board or paper. You can buy an Ouija board, but I don't suggest using an Ouija board, because knowing that years of usage has already put onto this object, because it's well known and it's world known. It's not just, in North America. It's all around the world. And energetic beings are already, the board has attachments with it when you buy it and it's never been used. Because that effort has been put into the board already. So you can use it, and you can use it safely if you know how to clear and draw down the light, which is why I say it over and over and over. So you can use an Ouija board if you want to. I would rather use a personal one that's geared to me. That way I'm not bringing in attachments that have, come from, hundreds of years of usage. Step 5, do your session and close your session. It is one thing to be all excited, you do your session, but you don't close it. You don't say goodbye. You don't ask them to say goodbye. Why is that important? All the doors and the portals that you just created so that you could communicate with your loved ones or whoever it happens to be. It might be, maybe you have a question for Einstein. Like, it's not necessarily just relatives that you might want to be talking to. You've opened up all those doors. If you do not close them, anything can use those doorways that you created, and those doorways are attached to you. It's not just the room or the place that you're doing it in. And you can get a physical attachment that may take years and years to get rid of. Some people don't even realize that they've got them. So you really do need to close those portals. And I've talked to a lot of people. They say, oh, well, I did that and nothing happened. I used the Ouija board and nothing happened. Well, yeah, it did. You opened portals, and if they're not attached to you, somebody else is going to have to deal with that because you've brought that energy in and basically you're responsible for it. So you need to be careful with that. At the end of your session, you've closed your session, you have said goodbye, you ask them to say goodbye. You need to thank and release your angels and guides that you invited in the first place. And what you need to say is, I would like to thank my angels, guides, friends, and elementals for their help, guidance, and protection during this session. You must thank them. Then, again, like another qualifier, you need to say, go if you must, stay if you will, farewell, and blessed be. Because they've got other places to go and other things to do. So you need to invite them in, and you need to allow them to go. So that's an important thing at the end of every session. No matter how excited you get, no matter how scared you get, no matter what happens, you still need to go through those steps. And this is just a board that I made in like 3 minutes. Alphabet, clearly spaced. Numbers, I don't know, not at this time, and goodbye. You don't need yes or no because your pendulum will do that. And most pendulums, if they don't know an answer, will just be straight and not move at all. So that's the simple steps to it. And I will show you all the other stuff in a moment, but I wanted to touch on you've got skeptics out there who are going to say, pendulums don't work. They're just your body moving them. I mean, it's the same with an Ouija board. People in the know will say, oh, it's just you moving it. Your fingers are on the board. You're moving the glass. You're moving the planchette or whatever that heart-shaped thing is called. Technically, yes, you are. And when it comes to a pendulum, yes, you are moving it. You've got a heartbeat, you've got blood flow, blood pressure, you have minute movements. All of that is connected to your higher self. Your higher self is in the paranormal realm. This is where the answers are coming from. This is what you're really using to communicate with the paranormal world, is your higher energy self. You can think of us as, that one little piece that has left our true body and has come here to learn and experience in physical form. So when someone says, yes, you're moving it, They are correct. They are. You know, you are moving it. But with that said, your higher self is also moving it, which sounds a little bit strange, I know, and is connected with the other realm, which is all energy. So, of course, they can connect to your higher self through pure energy. Your higher self can connect to you through your body and through the pendulum. So that's kind of how the energy travels to work for you. To sort of answer the from my past, like, you know, basically all this stuff happened in the late 70s, early 80s, when we were using a Ouija board, and everything went as bad as it could go. And at some point I'll share that story, but I'm not really comfortable talking about it with just the general public unless I'm trying to get a point across. But things went very, very bad. The people that I trusted that said that we were protected and they had it, did not have it. It went as bad could be. Near the end, when it got horrible, there was 6 of us. One was writing notes down, so he wasn't actually touching anything. 5 of us were using the board. It actually members of my cast from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. You know, it was the 70s, and I wore a tuxedo, so don't put me into a costume that I was never wearing. But anyway, it went bad. We all let go of the board, and the board ran itself for 3 or 4 minutes. And we were using a homemade board and a shot glass, and it was spinning and spinning, and we didn't know what to do. We were yelling at it to go back to hell. We tried to spell "go to hell, go to hell," and everything went crazy because we did not know what to do. We tried to attack it. It was attacking us before we decided to tell it to go to hell. It had already attacked somebody. And as it was going faster and faster, like first the shot glass got like hot, hot, hot. No one could touch it, which is why we all let go. It was spinning and spinning. It knocked all the letters, all the papers off of the table, and this was like a big dining room table. It shot across the room, hit the wall, left a big dent in the wall, and then dropped to the floor. Didn't shatter. The glass itself should have shattered into a million pieces. And I went over to pick up the shot glass, of which they were all yelling at me, "Don't touch it, don't touch it." And it was ice cold. So that had nothing to do with any of us touching and moving the glass. So paranormal and the way energy works is not the way that you can conceive in your head. So you do need to be careful. Like, things can go wrong, and things can go wrong with a pendulum just as easily as it can go wrong with an Ouija board, which is why I wanted to make this. Okay, so let's get into the show and tell part. And now I crochet and do crafty stuff, so I've got one of the pendulums that I use, and I have many. I have some for medical issues, I have some for dowsing issues, I have some for when we're doing our paranormal things. I use them for, because they're all programmed for different things. This is just a piece of amethyst that you can buy in any local metaphysical store. A pendulum is basically anything on a string chain that dangles that can easily be held and moved. You can use just about anything, as long as it's programmed. This is one of my necklaces, which has a really cool story behind it. I won't say now, but maybe you've got your grandmother's necklace or your grandmother's pearls. If you've got something like a necklace with pearls, open it up. Make sure that the latch has caught on the chain so that, you know, things aren't going to fall. And then with a single strand, you can hold it. You can use that. This, you could just use a piece. This is actually embroidery string, because that's what I had, and a wedding band. That can be used. I use crystal skulls in my healing work, so I do have a necklace with a crystal skull, and if I ask it, can you show me a yes, it will go in a circle, and I can ask, can you show me a no, and it will go back and forth. So these are questions when you're programming it that you need to determine for yourself which way is yes and which way is no. So that's that part. When I do the video of actually using everything, I have an unused pendulum here that I used to use for some, classes and stuff that, Anyway, so that's a quartz one. Quartz is always very good to use when you're first starting out. Amethyst is very good to use because it's quartz with specific minerals. It's a very good protection stone. So there's certain stones that people that do this a lot tend to use. Hematite, shungite, which is better than hematite if you're worried about protection and things like that. Shungite is the highest, I would say, one of the highest protection stones that are out there. But hematite is a cheaper stone and does just as good a job. Then you've got quartz, amethyst. You pick something that you feel a connection to, because that's the whole point. You need to have a connection. So we'll use that in a minute. Some different things that people use. This was a pocket watch with a dragon on it that I bought for like $4.99 at a fair that didn't work. Like, it worked for about 2 months. So I took the clockwork out of it. I don't know if you can see this up close. And I have a piece of quartz, a piece of hematite, and a piece of turquoise in there. And this works just as well. There, can you show me what a yes looks like? Now when I do this, yes, it's spinning. Now I could just, make it spin, but you can feel the pull. You will know if it's you or not, because you can feel the pull of it. I know that sounds weird, but once you've done it, you'll feel it. And can you show me a no, of course? So you could take one of these things that you can buy off the internet for nothing and put whatever stones in it that you like. It's really easy. The backs just screw off so that you can change the batteries, right? And take out the clockwork and put in your own stuff. This is a very old one that I have. It was my grandfather's, and it has some, these are special stones. I can't think of the name right now, but it's a male and female stone. It works in tangent together with some quartz, and that's another one. Usually I use that for protection, but you could use that for dowsing as well. There's embroidery thread. This is a little plastic jar from the dollar store. You could use a glass, one of the little glass vials. They have all sorts of vials, but this has a twist-on lid, so that if you took an end from this, tied it around, I'm not going to take time to tie it because, we want to get to the actual legitimate part of doing this. Sand. It's full of quartz. If you get it near where you live, some place that you love to be, it will have a connection to you. The water is a very cleansing stone, so sand is a very good thing to use in general. I have a big clay flower pot full of sand, and I use that to clear stones and things, and sometimes you need to bury it if you've got things that have been used a lot and really need a good clearing. But anyway, sand, another really easy thing to use. So we'll take out this pendulum. I did not want to use one of my pendulums in this video that I use for healing purposes and things like that. So I'm going to just run through a quick rundown of doing it, and in the next video, sort of step by step by step. I've bought a pendulum, I'm clearing it, I'm calling in my angels, I'm doing my drawing down the light. I will do a small little demonstration of what it looks like when you're dowsing, and there you go. It's not difficult when you know the steps to do, but it can be dangerous. And, you know, I did all of this without knowing how to clear properly. And yes, I had attachments, and yes, I had issues. And it was my learning experience so that, you know, 40 years later, I can actually tell everyone, this is how you do it. I know that people don't like to wait. They want it right now. They want it right away. But to really learn how to do it and do it safely, you need a little bit of knowledge, like, you know, so that you can go in knowing, well, if something goes wrong, this is what I do, and there's not a problem. It's really easy to go into something like this and be afraid to use it, and the problem is that when you are scared, or you've got that fear about using something, but you're doing it anyway, you bring that same vibration to what you're doing, and you draw whatever you're afraid of that might happen. You're putting that energy out, and you're drawing that to you. You do not want that to happen. But if you know how to draw down the light, you feel safe, secure, and you know you're protected. That's the energy you're putting out. And you're only going to get loved ones or angels, guides, people that are also of the same energy. It's not going to be anything bad. It's not going to be anything that wants to hurt you. And if something happens, don't panic. Draw down the light. Make sure that everything is safe. Ask your angels for help. And it's not an issue. And it'll never be an issue. So let's get to the practical part. I'm going to stop right here, and we'll do the practical video. Nope. She says, ha ha. Did it stop? No, it didn't.